Episodes of The View when she tries to pull the race card.
Yes.
And then she's like, America is racist. And then they're like, yeah, they might be racist, but they're not like slave owner racist. like somebody that we...
That's so true.
Yeah.
One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any is she said, well, like, I guess that's just what like they did back then.
Yeah.
She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this before.
Greg Gutfeld was not satisfied with just making a joke, even if the punchline was spot on and the crowd roared in laughter. He used the occasion to draw attention to what he saw to be obvious hypocrisy. Sunny Hostin has long advocated for making people responsible for their ancestry, often relying on systemic oppression and the burden of historical responsibility to support her claims. However, she seemed to shrug it off as a way of life when the disturbing history of her own family was revealed. That slipped, and Gutfeld noticed. He made the point that incidents like these highlight the perils of identity politics, particularly when the narrative someone promotes is inconsistent with their own reality or truth. He maintained that Sunny had just lost her moral high ground and emphasized the need of self-awareness and sensitivity when dealing with difficult subjects like history and race.
So wrapped up in identity, she had no idea who she was.
Well, now we understand why she always makes Whoopi get the coffee.
Exactly, because if she is shaming descendants of this, will she continue to do that when she is now...
Gutfeld stated that activists like Sunny often ignore awkward aspects, such as their own inconsistencies, by distilling complicated topics to identity-based talking points. Sunny's forebears were part of a system she vehemently hates, but the true irony, he added, was that she didn't take the time to think about it. Instead, she rejected the obvious conflict in her own position and minimized its importance. His remarks struck a profound chord with many, providing a crystal-clear illustration of what occurs when moral superiority collides with unsettling realities. For Gutfeld, it was more than simply Sunny. The lesson was broader, showing how theatrical anger often trumps personal responsibility. Without any delay, the internet reacted, with social media bursting with witty comedy and memes, including one post that went popular that said reparations. Give me a moment to write that check to myself. Users swarmed TikTok and Twitter to express strong views. Some defend Sunny by arguing that she shouldn't be held accountable for the acts of her ancestors, while others draw attention to her obvious double standard.
You know, in her defense, everyone has ancestors that did unspeakably horrible things. It's just that not everyone's ancestors have records tied to their DNA about it. Worried for Sunny Hostin's progeny in the future that do a DNA test and find out that they were related to a cast member of The View. And they're like, oh, it all makes so much sense now. Why I'm so stupid and fat.
This sparked a furious argument. Sunny and other public celebrities demand moral standards from others. Should they be subjected to the same standards? Her reaction, according to critics, lacked the appropriate introspection and development that ought to accompany such a prominent platform. The discussion turned from possible introspection to charges of hypocrisy as a result of Sunny's contemptuous response to her family's history. Instead of discussing the intricacies of genealogy and responsibility, the emphasis shifted to her inability to face her own past, reducing it to yet another argument over who is really morally responsible. The embarrassing consequences on The View followed. The joyful mood at the dinner abruptly ended when it was revealed that her family had owned slaves, causing a nervous stillness. Despite her reputation for making rapid comebacks, Whoopi Goldberg seems uncertain about how to respond to such a wry disclosure. The mood, however, was very different on Gutfeld's program. His other presenters were unrestrained in their use of scathing quips and light-hearted taunts. One even joked that Sunny could have to start putting herself through shame because of her family's history. They provided a scathing judgment via their laughing, which further revealed Sunny's moral weaknesses. A more nuanced perspective on the matter was also offered by Rosie O'Donnell.
Guess there's nothing worse than to find out you're a white woman.
She's so disappointed.
It's really disappointing.
Her mother was white.
Oh my
The
god.
shame.
Oh my god.
The horror. History, and finds out that she's, this is fantastic, she is descended from slaveholders. She's descended from slaveholders, and she's been apparently getting a lot of mail about her call for reparations because it turns out she's going to be paying him and not actually
She warned against oversimplifying complicated subjects like race and history and underlined that individuals should be evaluated by their deeds rather than their heritage. Her viewpoint highlighted the ways in which these disclosures might append dogmatic narratives and prompt difficult but essential introspection. There was a clear rift shown by the responses to Sunny's remark. Others said it was just another instance of identity politics gone wrong, while others viewed it as a chance for personal responsibility. No matter one's position, there was no denying the intensity that surrounded her statement. It turned into a controversy over Sunny's alleged hypocrisy and refusal to face her own history, rather than a time for personal development. The intricacy of everyone's past is brought home by this tale. This poses an important question. Shouldn't you expect the same level of responsibility from yourself if you want others to? Whether Sunny decides to confront the problem or ignore it completely, her reputation will be shaped by how she responds to this moment. Out the View hosts are among of the most stupid individuals on TV.
View hosts, among the dumbest people on television.
Sunny's dumb. Certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked, half baked, and you went on stage with it and it's nothing.
Just
there.
go for it.
Sunny's personal life, meanwhile, became even more contentious. Her spouse, Dr. Emmanuel Hostin, who is embroiled in a significant court battle, was the focus of attention this time. Insurance fraud, legal kickbacks, and an astounding 180 defendant RICO case are among the accusations. This high-stakes controversy is developing and has the potential to completely upend the medical industry. It's not your typical legal dispute. In the case, Dr. Hostin and others are accused of committing a plan to benefit from the healthcare system, receiving bribes to conduct unneeded operations, and filing false insurance claims for treatments that may not have ever occurred. Imagine insurance companies unwittingly paying for unnecessary procedures that resulted in people being put under anesthesia. Should these claims prove to be accurate, this might turn into one of the most startling medical scandals in modern history.
Has a policy. I mean, I'm not saying that Joe Rogan should be removed from Spotify. He's got 11 million listeners. He's got $100 million, contract as of 2020. But I do think as the podcast platform, you have to have some sort of guidelines. How about a disclaimer on his podcast that says, this is misinformation? How about removing some of the podcasts that disseminate misinformation?
They have.
And that's
In response, Daniel Thwaites, Dr. Hostin's attorney, has criticized the case as unfounded and said that the insurance company is using it as a smokescreen to hide their own financial issues. It comes out that Sunny may have been fully aware of her husband's dubious activities, which is what truly makes this narrative combustible, even if the conflict has just become more intense. Enter Joe Rogan, the podcast tycoon who didn't waste any time in exposing the View's hypocrisy. In contrast, Sunny often chastised others for their medical advice, he said. She never accepted the idea that she could have been aware of her husband's purportedly unlawful actions. Sunny's reputation is now under threat from both her husband's legal troubles and her own public image, and Rogan's remarks simply serve to stoke the flames. This is now about the reality behind famous individuals and their well-constructed images, not simply the lawsuit. The public's long-term perception of Sunny will depend on whether she speaks up or remains mute as the drama continues to develop. This time, it wasn't the opinion or a political discussion that caused the issue. Carrie Underwood chose to perform at the inauguration of the president. While you normalize this convicted criminal, I can see how you claim to love your nation. Suddenly, the country music diva, who was admired by many for her unadulterated talent and lack of drama, found herself at the center of cancel culture. What was meant to be a time of pride and an opportunity to honor her nation instead became a furor of criticism. For just agreeing to play, many were quick to accuse her of being an advocate of a convicted criminal. The twist is this, however, it had nothing to do with her act. It concerned the meaning of the performance for those who were unable to disentangle their respect for her as an artist from their political prejudices.
Of your country at the same time as you normalize this convicted felon.
Notwithstanding the criticism, Carrie remained firm. She chose to hold her ground instead, and she gained the admiration of a fresh group of followers who appreciated her bravery in sticking to her conviction. On the other hand, several of her fellow country music artists choose to remain quiet out of concern for criticism or the loss of sponsorship agreements. Carrie, no. She held herself up. When Carrie sang America the Beautiful, The View quickly joined in, criticizing her of normalizing a convicted criminal. There is fury, but no criminal convictions as of yet. The media's dishonest tone was hard to overlook, particularly as it became evident that Carrie's decision was a straightforward act of patriotism. The tale of Carrie is a classic illustration of how cancel culture often devolves into a hypocritical game. Carrie's career continued to flourish even after the outcry had subsided. Her shows are sold out, and her CDs continue to break the top rankings. Carrie stayed unwavering while the detractors moved on to the next target, demonstrating that a lasting legacy may result from upholding your integrity in the face of criticism.